All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is, I believe, the third video in this. No, fourth video. I lost track. Vocab, intro, epithelial. Fourth video. All right, this is the fourth video in the series. And today we are going to talk about muscles and the nerves at the same time. All right, I did say I was going to separate everything out, but I'm going to have two different chapters on the nervous system alone. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about them today. I'm going to lump them in with the muscles. So let's get started. All right. Muscle tissue. Muscle tissues are contractile. What does that mean? That's a weird word. Contractile means they contract. It means they shorten, right? Muscles, we learned in previous videos, are actually, they look like a whole bunch of strings, what we call fibers. And those long fibers will shorten. We'll talk about how that happens in the muscular system chapter, but it's actually a chemical reaction. Different proteins are pulling on each other, and the muscles get pulled in, which is going to pull on the bones and move your body parts around. So they pull on what we call the attached ends, and that's going to give you your motion. And we have three types of muscle tissue we're going to care about. We call the skeletal muscle, which is what you think of when you think of muscles, right? This is what moves your skeleton around, hence the name skeletal muscle cells. Then you got smooth muscles, which you probably didn't even realize were actual muscles. Things like your stomach or your small intestine, these organs actually do count as muscles. And like any other muscles, they do move. Yes, your stomach moves, your intestines move, not very far, but they're doing this squeezing motion in your stomach, so it splashes the acid all over your food. In your intestines, it's what's going to make the food move through all your intestines until you go to the bathroom. Uh, Even going to the bathroom, your rectum is part of your large intestine. It is a smooth muscle that is squeezing the waste out of your body. So those smooth muscles are going to be used for a squeezing motion. And then cardiac, you're only going to find this in one spot, and that's your heart. Cardiac is a fancy word, and whenever you come across this, you know you're talking about anything dealing with your heart. So cardiac muscle cells are a special muscle cell just for your heart. And we do have some details about each one. Skeletal muscle tissue is what we call striated. If you were to look at this in a microscope, you would see stripes, or what we say in the scientific community, striations. Why do we call it that instead of striped? I don't know. Not my call. I didn't make up the word. I prefer striped myself, actually. It's easier. But the actual word is striations. If you look at it, like in this picture, it actually looks like a whole bunch of individual strings that are striped or striated. They're stretched out long. That way they have the ability to contract. And because they are so long, each one has multiple nuclei. Yes, they have nuclei. They have organelles, guys. These are cells. They don't look like cells that you're used to in Bio 1, but your muscle cells are weird. They actually are cells with all of the things you learned about before. So mitochondria are in there, lysosomes are in there, ribosomes are in there, and nuclei. In this case, a bunch of them, because they're so long that you need a bunch of nuclei in order to
have genetic information across the entire cell for protein synthesis.
And here's the cool thing about your skeletal muscle system, they are completely voluntary. This is the only one that you have full control over. You choose when to move your muscles around. You choose when to move your body around. So here's a cartoony picture, and here's that real picture of it from your textbook. This is from a real picture taken from a real microscope. You can see the striations. It looks a bit animated because of the dyes added to it, but this is real. Here's the fake one. This is one cell. This is a whole nother cell. Again, one cell, a whole nother cell. It's just straight lines that are striped. Nice and easy. And they make up all these different muscles. We will go into more detail in our muscular system chapter talking about what these different muscle groups do. But all you need to know now is they pull. So you can actually figure out what they do just by looking at the direction of the fibers. Like your deltoid here, attaches to your shoulder, reaches down and attaches to your arm. So when this contracts this way, it's going to pull your arm up. Your pectoralis muscle, your chest muscles, are anchored at your sternum, the center of your chest, and reach out and attach to the top of your arm. So when this contracts, it's going to swing your arm in front of you. You can tell that from looking at any of the muscles. And a few more microscope slides because they're interesting to look at. Some are better than others. It depends on how good the dye sticks to it. This one's a pretty good one. Okay. Smooth muscle, not striated. That's your biggest hint. Out of the three, this is the one that does not have the stripes. And they only have one nucleus. Nice and easy there. These are completely involuntary. You have no choice in the matter. These are going to work on their own, which is good because I honestly don't want to have to bother thinking about making my digestive system work. I don't know if you guys are interested in that. I'm not. So let these things work on their own. So these are going to be for those internal organs we don't like to think about. So again, cartoony picture based on this real picture. We can see connective tissue in between where the dye is not sticking very well, but where it's darker is the actual cell. And it looks like someone took your standard Bio 1 textbook cell and just stretched it out. Again, cartoony picture, just stretched it all out. And here's your one nucleus, the nucleolus in there. And they're all attached to each other to not move very far. They're not very long muscles. So the best you're going to get is a kind of squeezing motion of the stomach or the intestines or even your esophagus, which is the food pipe in your throat. It's how you squeeze the food through your digestive system. Nice pictures of things that are made of smooth muscles. Again, here's your stomach, here's your small intestine, and through your large intestine. Over here again, large intestine. Ladies, this is a female picture. The fallopian tubes are going to kind of move around and try to get the egg into the uterus right here. And the uterus itself is also a muscle. It's going to grow and stretch out as the baby grows. But if you're not pregnant, but at the end of the month, you need to get rid of that egg and the uterine lining that's all gone bad. And it's going to start moving, squeezing. That's the cramps you feel. That's what's going to push everything out. And that's how you get your period. So here's some smooth muscle pictures again in the microscope, just individuals stretched out, and there's so many of them, it just kind of looks like a wavy hot mess, right? So again, smooth muscles look all wavy like someone blew their nose on the microscope slide. And cardiac muscle tissue. Again, these are striated or striped, except these don't look exactly like the skeletal muscles. These are actually slightly different in the fact that those individual fibers blend into each other, or we say they branch out. Take a look at this one here. This one branches, goes this way, but it also branches into the next one over, and they become one big cell instead of two individual ones. They're not going to have as many nuclei as a skeletal, but you are going to have more than one. You can have anywhere from 1 to 3 per cell. Again, completely involuntary. Thank God for that, because I don't want to think about making my heart beat. And the only place you're going to find this is your heart, which is why we named it cardiac. And where these cells connect to each other, you can see here there are some thicker stripes. Those are important. Those are called intercalated discs. Let's say that again slowly. Intercalated discs. Right. Here's a blown up picture, cartoony picture. Here's the real picture. Right here, I guess there was some damage done or the dye didn't stick, so they filled it in the cartoony picture. But you can see those details. 1 to 3 cells or nuclei per cell. The individual ones are branching into other ones, and they have those intercalated discs. That's your biggest hint. If you're not sure if you're looking at skeletal or cardiac, look for these discs. And yes, guys, I am going to expect you to tell them apart. Right? There will be a quiz on that. I'm not sure how I would do that online, but we'll figure that out. Right? And what these intercalated discs do, this is very important here, is they speed up the signals. right? This muscle is based on signals from your nervous system. Your nervous system tells your heart to contract. They're actually telling the individual cells to contract, and those signals need to spread to other cells. So these things, if you ever played any racing games, let's go with Mario Kart, and they usually have those speed strips across the road. So you hit that and you get a sudden boost of energy, sudden boost of speed. That's what these things do. They're going to move that information from your nervous system faster, so that your heart is always constantly getting that information. Your heart never stops. If it ever stopped, you're dead. So it needs to always go. So it needs to always make sure it's being told to go. So this is kind of like a fail-safe device to make sure that all the information gets spread. Again, real picture of your heart, in case you were interested. This doesn't actually look like Hallmark. We'll have a whole chapter on that. Another picture, again, kind of hard to tell the difference between this and the skeletal, so we're going to have to look for these individual discs. And that's your biggest hint there. In this one, it's actually kind of reversed. For some reason, the dye didn't stick to the discs, so we still are going to see them, but now they're white in this picture. That's something to be aware of. And ignore this, all this information, it's all stuff I already said. I just wanted you to look at this picture. Good picture of the discs, good picture of the branching out. I said we were going to talk about the nervous system briefly too in this video. Won't be as long. The nerve cells are also known as neurons. They have a large head. In fact, that large head is actually what you learned in Bio 1. Everything you learned in Bio 1 is here. Again, this is a nucleus. You're going to see ribosomes. You can see endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, all that good stuff. And then some other stuff coming off of it. And that's the stuff we want to focus on in anatomy physiology. It's going to have this long tail that's going to spread an electric signal, electric impulse. It transmits nerve impulses. And that information, that impulse is going to help regulate body functions. This thing is going to help tell your body what to do. Your brain says, hey, body, do a thing. It's going to send that message down all of these nerves. That's going to send the message to another nerve, to another neuron, to another neuron, to another neuron, to another neuron, until it gets to that body part, and the body part does the thing. It's like whisper down the lane. Just a blown up picture so you can see it. We're going to go into detail about all these different parts in a future chapter. So this is what one nerve cell looks like. Again, real picture, artist picture based on it. So we can see the detail, but I think this is a very decent picture. These things coming off are going to gather information. The cell's body is going to process that information, and then it's going to send the information down this long tail. And those long tails, you can actually see them, they're stretching out, they're sticking out, trying to reach each other so they can connect and communicate with each other. And this is what we call a neural network. And a neural network is extremely complicated. It's really hard to follow a path. I'm not even sure how a nerve cell knows which other cell to pass it on to, because it's connected to so many other ones. Just a few other pictures. All right, and that's what we're calling it quits today. We'll go into connective tissues in the next video. So like always, check out Google Classroom, see if I left you any work to do. Until then, I will see you in another video.